Hey y'all, it's Stephen Van Kampen-Lewis and William Green, and we're back here for another Orchid chit chat. I know we haven't done one in a while, but William texted me the other day and was like, "Hey, it's been a while. Let's figure out where the Catasetums are and maybe talk about when to water and why we're gonna water some." You can see in the background, William's got some lined up to show, and then maybe we'll talk about some that are not going to get watered. um, and I think for all of mine, it looks like they're all nearly ready to water, and hopefully everybody who's watching also has a bunch of plants that are nearly ready to water, and you're just getting itchy to water them, and it's that time of the year. So, William, how are you?
Good. And just for some perspective, Stephen grows in South Texas outdoors, and I grow in Colorado in a tent. And my time frame is about 2 months ahead of yours, I think, in
That
terms
that
of.
sounds about right. You seem to go to sleep a little earlier. Your
Mhm,
Cloweasias bloom a couple of months before mine,
mhm,
and then they start waking up earlier. There's
mhm.
something about that tent life that they
Yeah,
seem to love.
it's the easy life.
Yeah.
So let's see, today is May the 11th, and this is the longest I've ever waited to water Catasetumi. I don't know why. I think it's just because April and May were really busy and there were a lot of unexpected things that came up that kept me from feeling that longing or that wanting, that needing to water these things. I was just sufficiently distracted, and suddenly here we are halfway through May, and I haven't watered anything yet. So I wanted to show you some things, Stephen, and see if you think, yep, I'd water that, or man, it can keep going.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Uh,
also wanted to clarify that just because a plant could keep going, does it mean that it should keep going? Is there like a nice, you know, spot in there that it's like, okay, this is the ideal time?
yeah, it's more of a window really than like a single day in time and pinpoint it down to the minute and second. It's like, all right, my plant is ready to water. I could water now. Am I going to wait longer? You can, and the reason you might want to wait longer is just those roots are really extending quickly this time of year, especially before they water. They continue growing after you water as well, but man, if you can really get as many roots out there into the pot, ready to absorb the nutrients in the water, the plant will recover from its winter rest much faster. It'll put out a bigger growth. It'll have a better bloom. Um, so there are reasons to extend your dry period, so there's just more roots in the pot available to do their thing. But sometimes, if your plant is running out of juice and there's just those pseudobulbs are like super, super, super skinny and there's not much left. Yep,
So
that's a
this
good
is
example.
my Cycnoches coopery that I got last year. The one with it's got a green parent and a brown parent, and of course it came out not green at all. But I don't think I've ever let a bulb get that skinny before. It's not got a whole lot left. So I do see one root down here, and I also see another root here. So I think this one's ready.
And so when you say you're ready, I'm thinking about two things here. First of all, you've potted it in a clear pot so you can see the roots. And I feel like that's half the battle
Right.
of figuring out when to water. And for those of you who are like, ah, crap, I have like a black pot or a dark green pot, and I can't see where those roots are. You can usually see them spinning around the bottom, and that's usually a good indicator. You'll see them in little holes in the bottom. So that's sort of a backup way to do it if you don't have a clear pot. The next thing is you're like, well, hey, it's I don't know what 6 inches long, maybe for some of those. The
Yeah. Oh yeah, at the bottom of the pot here, so at least, yeah.
Yeah, and so Fred Clark, when he talks about catasetums, he's saying 4 inches is sort of your minimum, and it's about this long. And so William, your roots are maybe 50% larger than the minimum. So yeah, I would say that one is ready to be watered.
I will say that as I've gained experience with these plants, I find myself watching the bulbs more than the roots when it comes to time to water.
especially this time of year when those bulbs are probably getting out of energy.
There's not a whole lot left in
Yeah,
some of them. So gonna start watering. And when I do start watering, I'm gonna be real nitpicky and meticulous about it. I'll take it to the sink. I'll drench the medium completely with just water. I won't fertilize or anything. And I'll just let that sphagnum absorb it because as you know, what sphagnum is like totally hydrophobic when it's dry. It
yeah.
needs some good waterings to just get nice and spongy again. And then this year I'm gonna try Osmocote pellets, like a teaspoon of Osmocote pellets, sprinkled on top. Then
Mhm.
I'll use my regular 25 ppm nitrogen with every watering routine that I use for everything. But I'm thinking that the Osmocote pellets will give them a little bit of extra fertilizer as well.
For
So
sure.
that's my super individualized way of breaking dormancy for these guys. But I'm sure, of course, you can just like start hitting them with everything all at once.
Yeah, yeah, and that's my preference. Some people try and like slowly water. I don't see a reason for that. And you're gonna put that under the sink, but another thing that you could do, and maybe some of the folks at home would do this, is take like a bowl of water or a bucket and then put the whole thing in there. And if you haven't dealt with hydrophobic sphagnum, the whole thing floats.
Yeah,
So as soon as it gets enough water in there, the whole thing rises up like a little sail ship and then flops over, and then you got to just leave it for a couple of hours for it to absorb. It's really weird.
the my two couperies are the only plants that I have that are in an I think it like an authentic pet method situation where they have reservoirs at the bottom, and it's only this much of a reservoir. It's not a big one. Like there's the hole,
Yeah.
so it's this much. But I might sneak. Well, I'll just move on to this one because this is the one that I cheated with. So this one had lots of roots from last year, as you can see,
That looks great.
and they still look pretty good all through the winter. And so as the bulb started to shrink, I watered it just on the edge here so that the water trickled down and then filled up the reservoir. And then the plant sucked up the water without it getting the new roots wet.
Hmm.
Because the thought is that if the roots get wet, maybe they won't grow out as much or as far. I don't know.
Yeah, if a lot of them, if not all of them, and certainly not the hybrids, but man, look at that. So there's two things that I'm thinking about with that one. A is that, yeah, if those roots hit the wet media and it stays wet, they can abort, and then suddenly your roots are this long for the whole season,
Stumpy.
and then you're not gonna have a good season. The other thing is, those roots are super viable. Like a lot of people think that, okay, once it's gone through dormancy, those roots are dead and gone. And it's not true. They don't die and go away till maybe the summer or even into the fall when the new roots are there to replace it. Those roots are still
They're still
super
alive.
useful.
Yeah.
Um,
So this one, definitely going to start watering it.
yeah, looks good.
Exactly. Let's see. This one's a little bit on a different time scale. So this is my big Varsovicii. I think you saw it last year. It
Hmm.
was like outstanding. I had two different judges tell me take it in, and the one of our judges at our center was like, bring it in. I look forward to judging it. And then we had a snowstorm and they canceled judging, and I was like, ah.
Oh, that
So,
sucks.
but you can see lots of roots still pouring out of the main growth. You can just see even as a small growth how thick it is. I really expected to have a nice big baseball bat size bulb this year, and the roots are there's new ones, but there's new ones coming out, but there's ones that have come out a couple months ago that have already reached the bottom of the pot. I'm a little hesitant to start watering this yet, just because I kind of would like it to look more like this.
Hmm.
But I think in terms of root length, it would be okay. And I'm
Yeah,
wondering if you were saying earlier, letting it go longer could end up in better growth in the long run. And I'm wondering if that would be the case for a plant like this
I
with
would
a
say
pretty well
yes.
developed root system, but still some energy left in those bulbs.
And that's the important part. And correct me if I'm wrong, but there were still some root nubbins that were like maybe an inch or two long. Um,
Yeah,
still pouring into the pot. Yeah, so
yeah,
like you could let those go another couple of inches, maybe let them get this long and then start watering, and that'll just give all of those roots that much more time to
yeah.
do their thing in the media and start absorbing nutrients in water.
Yeah, I can see 9 roots, 10 root nubbins that are still just pushing out of the growth itself. So I might give that one a little bit more time to just get those roots a little deeper into the pot.
Yeah, that's cool. And yeah, when you say baseball size bed, I mean I mean Coopery, I've seen Coopery this big.
Really,
Varsavixia, like it's even bigger.
I love how nice and straight they grow. And I'm in the tent, one wall of the tent is a window. So the growths tend to go towards that sunlight, even though they don't get that much. It's that sun just draws them. So I will rotate the pot throughout the season to get a nice, straight, vertical growth
Hmm,
so that at the end of the season, they're really nice and straight. And then the presentation of the flowers is just really, really, really nice. I
that's
like
super
that.
cool.
Little
Yeah.
extra effort. This one I wanted to ask you about because this one bloomed in late January. This is another Cycnoches, and you can see how far the new growth is up on the previous bulb, and it's got all this airspace from the bottom of the new growth down to the medium, so they're kind of hanging around in midair here. Do you think I should add some more medium around it, or just let them find it?
I would add more.
Yeah,
I always get nervous. I know you've got super dry air in Colorado, maybe not so much in the tent, but I always get nervous about those root tips aborting. And you'll see there's a lot of posts online right now saying, "Oh, like look at my roots. The root tips are gone and they're this long hanging out in the air." And you ask, "Well, what's the relative humidity?" And it's like 30% or 20% or something. And like, yeah, those root tips, they shrivel up and go away. And
mm,
so I would add a little more sphagnum on top there, and just to sort of prevent that.
kind of pile it up. Do you think there's
Yeah.
any danger because the previous growths are actually kind of down in that medium, and I'm a little concerned that having damp sphagnum pretty far up, like an inch or two up on the bulb on previous bulbs could induce rot. What do you think?
No, the cool thing about the Catasetums in their group is that when they're actively growing, it's really tough to rot them. So you can actually bury them in the media, and they're fine. It's not
Be
like
fine.
Cattleya or Phalaenopsis that'll just start turning black on you. Are those all new roots?
No, those are from last year.
Oh wow! I mean, those as soon as you hit that with water, those are all going to turn bright green and absorb water, and are clearly not dead.
I think some of them, yeah, they want to poke out a new little branches.
Hmm. Oh, hold
And
on one
just,
sec.
I get a lot of questions about dormancy. I treat these plants exactly like I treat them during the growing season, except temperatures are slightly cooler just because it's winter, and they get slightly less light because the days are shorter. But the big difference is I just don't water them. Everything else is the same. Humidity's the same, light's a little less, temperature's a little less, but basically I just don't water them. These none of these, by the way, have been watered since January 1st. That was my cutoff day.
That's a good almost 5.5 months.
Yeah, long time. The next plant I want to show you, well, I've got 2 Clowezias I wanted to show you.
Hmm.
So I have 2 clones of Rebecca Northern. So this is an older one. This is grapefruit pink. And the bulbs are pretty shrivelly. This is one of those situations where I cannot see the roots,
Yeah.
but I can see the bulbs are very shrivelly. I can see that the new growths are pretty decently sized, and I'm gonna go ahead and start watering it.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of nutrients left in those bulbs.
No, they're just crispy.
Yeah. So
So,
that's one where you might be up against a rock and a hard place where just the growths and the roots are probably not where you want them to be, but the alternative is that if you let it go too long, the whole plant will die.
or it'll be set back to a point where the whole season it's just recovering instead of actually moving forward.
Yeah, but I've seen them just straight up and die once
Really?
they get to the end of there's not a whole lot they can do, and everything turns brown and dies, and you're like,
I don't want that to
no.
happen. I really like this one, and I think
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to find.
you see
Grapefruit
this
pink.
Rebecca Northern, yeah.
And then this is a different Rebecca Northern. This is from SVO's offerings a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And this one's got 3 growths on it. I'm happy about that. And I potted it in this shallow thing because I wanted to give it, these things kind of spread out, and I want to keep as many bulbs on it as I can.
Yeah.
So we'll see how this works.
Was that tricky to bloom it? Because their spikes are pendant, so
Yeah, well, I just repotted it in this in February, so we'll see what happens. I think I'll probably have to put it on a stand,
yeah.
something that like a cup or another pot or something. And then this is also kind of semi-pet, like where there's no holes in the bottom of the container. They're just
A
kind of a
little,
little higher up on the side.
yeah.
And I can
That's
see a
cool.
root here. So
And the Cloaceas seem to get the roots seem to go out farther quicker.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so the other one that you couldn't see the roots, it might actually not be that bad of a place.
Mm-hmm.
And so hitting it with water in the next week, I think it should be fine.
Yeah, I'm ready to start watering. I've been putting it off. It's a big job. They're water hogs.
Hmm.
Absolute water hogs. I might
It's
have to get a separate, like a gallon jug that's just for them.
it's
But I just
amazing how much they'll just absorb from that water well at the end of the day. You're like, I just watered you yesterday. How is this thing dry?
where did it go?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Turn,
so this year we're gonna try to supplement with Osmocote. I very kind of lightly sprinkled some Osmocote on them last year, and it was like, oh, okay, pretty good. So I might just, that interview you had with Fred where he's like he hits him with 200 ppms per week in the height of the growing season. For him, his July, August, I think might be my June, July.
it could be.
So it might be time to go ahead and do it. So we will see what happens.
So, one of the key things to waking these plants up is to have daylight changing, shortening in the fall and lengthening this time of year. How are you doing that for your artificially lit collection?
Yeah, as I said, the one wall of the tent is an east-facing window. It's a clear plastic. The side of the tent is transparent so that sunlight comes in. So that just does it automatically. I don't change my photo period on my LEDs at all during the year. They come on
Mm.
at like 11 o'clock in the morning and they turn off at 6:30 p.m. all year.
And
But
the
in the
rest
but the
is natural.
morning, sorry.
Yeah. So the rest is natural.
The rest is natural. Like in the morning here, I think the sun comes up in the summer at like 5 something. So they're getting there's a building in front, so the sun has to clear that, but they're getting flooded with sunlight at like 7 o'clock in the summer. And then in the winter, that's not till like 9 o'clock and it's weak light.
Yeah.
So they really do get a difference. And one thing that I discovered last year, I installed an automatic watering system, and water got down into the crowns. And what I discovered that the plants that were in that direct sunlight, their crowns were rotting out. So now I think that the heat of the sun will, combined with water sitting in the leaves, can be
Mm.
not a good idea.
And just cook some probably.
Right. So if I go away this summer or something and have the watering system, I will change the blinds so that sunlight is indirect in the morning and not shining right on the plants and cooking them. Hopefully that will work.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. All right. I'll do a quick. I brought a few over. So I published a video today that was talking about some of my plants. So I didn't grab those ones. I
Oh,
grabbed some different ones.
good.
So
Do what you
here are
need
the
to do.
ones the ones that I've brought over. One of them is not bloomed. It's not a seedling. It'll probably bloom this year. It's Vanaceum. It's one of Fred's releases, and I'm tilting the whole thing over
Oh yeah,
because
yeah, yeah. I've seen that's a purplish one, isn't it?
it is, and it has this like perfect shingling of the flowers and this perfect symmetrical little
Oh yeah.
football, and it just looks like one large flower, but it's a whole bunch of smaller ones. Um, and and so this is not bloomed yet, and you can see that the bulbs are shriveled. I think I've mentioned in previous discussions where to me it looks like, as the plant shrinks and the old sheath stays the same, it looks like pajamas that are too
Yeah.
big on them.
His clothes are too big.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's got good roots. I mean, there's roots. Oops, where's the camera? A lot of these are new. Some are old, but I mean, I'm seeing new root tips all over the place.
Oh,
So,
nice.
so this one could certainly be watered.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but there's still juice left. There's still, so you can see this bulb here is shriveled, but not too bad, and the rest are as well. So I'll give this another week or two, I think at least.
It's not in dire straits.
It's not in dire straits, exactly right. Your gift to me from years ago, Fong Sing, is looking thirsty,
Look at that.
looking like some pajamas are too big, and but
He's
this,
been he's lost some weight.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But the new roots are coming, they're cranking. Let me see if I can find some that
Nice
are,
straight new growth too. I like that.
oh yeah,
Vertical.
yeah, these sort of complex, um, not intergeneric, but when there's a lot of Peleatum in the background,
Yeah.
or an expansum, they have these big, nice new growths, and they come with these big bulbs, and these are just monstrous honking things. But I mean, there's roots that are going. The new growth is
Oh
over
my gosh.
here,
You
and they're
can barely
already.
even tell if there's any medium in there. It's just roots,
It
roots, and more
is
roots.
exactly, and that's good. They like that. So, with our Cattleyas and our other ones, when the media starts to break down, we kind of freak out. We want to get them
Yeah.
out. These
Lots of
guys love
roots
that.
might rot. Oh no.
Yeah, these guys love. They grow on, not all of them, but a lot of them are growing on rotten wood in the wild, so they're perfectly
They're
adapted
happy
to
with
that.
that.
Yeah.
I always feel like the new growths on these plants are like if you were to go like see a geyser or something like that and snap a picture right as it explodes. I mean, I just feel all this potential energy like
Yeah.
blasting up out of the plant.
Yeah. And their growing season is so reduced that that's what they have to do. They're just like,
Yeah.
give me water and
Yeah.
nutrients.
We're doing it. We're doing this.
And I got two plants in the mail this week from Adam Driesward, and I were talking earlier. You don't know him, but he's a hobby grower in Missouri, and he has Catasetum dagny, which he grew. Dagny is his wife's name, and he got an FCC on it. And is there?
Wow.
You may have seen a plant, and I'll push the computer back, and he's standing there holding this plant, and the spikes are in either direction, and literally they're arm's lengths. They're all the way across, and there's a picture of him with the plant on the table, and he's holding his arms out. And it's that big, and it's well deserved FCC. And anyway,
I'm Googling.
he's got some of his own breeding, and he has a Catasetum Desmond Driesward, and I believe Desmond is his son's name.
Uh-huh.
Um, and this is number 8 and number 6, and so these are bloomed, and there were images, and I'll show you the photos that I have, and they're super cool. As
You're
soon as I
excited about
saw,
these.
yeah, they're really good. And again, these are going to be the big expansum and Peleatum heavy background where these bulbs will eventually get gigantic and these new growths are huge. But I mean, these came in the mail, and I don't know how well you can
Those are
see,
ready
but
to go, aren't they?
they're ready. Oh man, these are just like big
They look
giant
great.
root worms.
Snakes.
Snakes. Yeah, I mean, I mentioned that they come out the bottom of the pot. I don't know if you can
Oh
see
yeah, I see it.
that root tip there.
Oh yeah.
So, even with a solid pot, you can tell when it's time to water for especially the larger mature plants. It's a little more tricky with the smaller seedlings, but
Yeah. Speaking of, there's a plant that I forgot about. I'm gonna grab it. Where are you? There it is. So Louisiana Orchid Connection had these crosses of two summer blooming Clowezias, Thylaciochyla by Russelliana.
Yeah.
But it's an SVO cross. It's got the SVO identifier on it. And this is it. Tiny little baby. And it's
Still
got,
sleeping, huh?
yeah, well, it's got 3 bulbs on it. And I thought they were all the same plant, but maybe they're different because there is a tiny little growth that's coming off of the smallest bulb, which I thought was kind of interesting. The largest bulb still doesn't have anything. And I'm wondering, I've never raised one that is this small before, and I'm wondering, maybe it needs to go ahead and get some water. I shouldn't be looking for a whole lot of root growth on this thing, since it is so small.
Yeah, you can hit it with water, especially if it starts to shrivel, so that it dries out before those new roots come out, and it just gives it a little edge. You know, I talked to Fred about that one time, and he's like, in nature, there's no one going out and watering the little seedlings early. You know,
Yeah,
they need to come into their own at the same time as the adults, and you know, uh, there's a massive mortality rate for plants that size, of course, and we don't want that in
right.
our collection. But
I don't want that.
so
I'm
yeah,
excited about these summer crosses though, because they are supposed to be powerfully fragrant. I like the green flowers, the stripes, the kind of weird goblin look that they have. And I don't know how many years this is from being bloom size, but it's just kind of a fun little thing to do. Grow one from seed. I know you've got some seedlings as well.
I don't, not next to me right now. I have some little ones. Actually, I could grab some. And Louisiana Orchid Collection flask these, and they've got most of the flasks. I only asked for one back. So they should be selling this. But here, let me grab it.
Yeah, this is a cross you made.
So yeah, I guess I forgot about that.
This
And
is a cross you made, right?
it is, yeah. It's Yusuf Niazi by Black Knight. Both parents are black. Black petals and sepals. Black Knight has a white lip, and Yusuf Niazi has a green lip. So I'm curious to see how it turns out. Watch, it'll all be something that's not black or green. But
Those
a
are
lot of them
great.
have, yeah, a lot of them have just started to go dormant.
Oh,
So it's kind of tricky, but some of them are just are like cranking new growths,
yeah.
not bulbs that are ready to go to sleep yet. And then others have decided that it's sleepy time. And this is why I think I had just had a discussion with Fred Clark, and he's like, when I get my seedlings out of flask, I want it to be in like March or April, so that they have that whole growing season to get in sync. He's
Right.
like, I never want to deflask anything in the fall. A week later, this was fall when we had the conversation.
Yeah.
A week later, I got these.
Yeah. They
Right.
look good
So
though.
yeah, they're out of
So they
sync.
grew through the winter, you're saying?
Yeah.
I see. Okay. I wonder, can you just keep going and just give them dormancy when the real cycle hits in the fall, or do they need it now, or
I'm just gonna keep watering them.
just keep going? Yeah.
It's hot in the cabinet, in the orchid cabinet, and um just gonna let them carry on.
They'll have the kids like to stay up too late anyway.
They do.
You know?
They do like a schedule, but sometimes we just gotta spoil them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing those.
Yeah, and Louisiana Orchid Connection should be selling them whenever they're ready to go. The owner was sending me photos of the flasks that he was taking out, and some of the new growths, or the new plants were already this big. So
Oh, nice.
yeah.
Yeah, I was curious why. Well, anyway, they've got some good stuff, and this was so cheap. This was $12. $12 for a new cross, unnamed hybrid summer bloomer. I was like, I can't resist.
Those plants get big though. You're gonna have
I'm looking forward to it.
yeah,
Bring it on.
it's gonna be cool.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. Summer blooming and fragrant really jives with my lifestyle.
Yeah. You gotta not go on vacation though when they're sleeping
Oh
or
no,
when
I
they're
have to
blooming.
plan vacations or they won't bloom.
That's right. That's right.
Like my Rexes right now are just normally they have buds in the sheath when when the leaves open up. Lots of sheaths, no buds yet. They're gonna wait till I'm gone.
Man, they're jerks. They're planning. They're plotting.
Telling you, man.
They're like, we don't want to be awarded. But
But
all right,
yeah,
well,
that's.
that's it. That's all
I
I
think I'm gonna
got.
start watering very soon, like today.
Like as soon as we're done with our call.
Yes, I'm like I can feel it. Like I gotta go water them.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, that's cool. I'm glad that we got a chance to catch up and take a look at some catasetums and some of their friends, their Clowesia and Cycnoches
Right.
friends, and
See where they are before they really see where they are just before the real growing season starts.
mhm.
The real deal gets going.
And so many people when they're growing this group, they're like, I want to water them now. And
Hmm.
man, it's such a great time of year when you
It's
finally get
okay
to
to
water them.
wait. Yeah, it's okay to wait.
Yeah, cool.
All
All right,
right.
man. Well, it's good to see you, and we'll chat soon.
You too. Thanks.
All right, bye.
See ya.